Hey guys, this is your host Christopher Adam, and I want to welcome you back to the Christian Metal Source podcast. Sleeping Giant! Up from the underground! We leave behind a legacy of praise! Well, guys. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to the Christian Metal Source podcast. It has been an incredible journey so far with awesome feedback. We love you guys so much. We are now into 2019, actually 1/6 of the way through 2019 already. We're already into March. We haven't had a chance yet to look at any of the new releases of the year so far. So we're going to be doing that in segments. So we're going to be doing January and February. But in between those segments, you guys have probably already seen the title of the podcast, Long Live Sleeping Giant. And today, as of recording, they released a documentary, a farewell documentary to Sleeping Giant, kind of having the band members talk about the history of the band and the end of the band last year when they performed their last shows and released their final album. There are some great moments in that documentary. They have some live footage from the final shows, and just some of the stuff they talk about is really great. So I have a couple sound bites that I wanted to talk about. Something that really shows who they were and gives us something to look for inspiration as up-and-coming artists in the Christian metal community. I want to talk about that and have this episode kind of be the last hurrah to Sleeping Giant that I can provide, as they are definitely one of my favorite bands, and they've been a huge musical inspiration for me. But yeah, I just wanted to give them the time that is due in this episode. And yeah, maybe some of you have seen some comments online. It's like some people kind of missed the boat on Sleeping Giant and didn't really focus on them when they were around. And they kind of feel like they missed out after watching this documentary. But Sleeping Giant truly did leave behind a legacy of praise, and we want to talk about that in a bit. But before we get to Sleeping Giant, let us kick off with some of the January releases, because we have quite a few here. First up is an awesome, incredible new single by the band Righteous Vendetta featuring Trevor from 1,000 Foot Crutch. This song is called Like Poison.
It's like a sharp knife digging deep into your skin. You'll never know until the blade breaks up in the end. That's when you'll feel it slow through your veins and take control. Everything you do is like poison killing us slow. You know we'll never be like you. Everything you do is like poison killing us slow. You know we'll never be like you. Come closer, I need someone to listen. Don't push away, I'll do it if I can take it. All I need is validation of my feelings. I need you here, not alone with my genius. No, got the struggle every day. From my thoughts to what will I say? Keep breathing just to keep my heart beating. To find peace if it's only for a minute. Searching God, and now my life.
Wow, man, I hope you guys liked those clips there. That Righteous Vendetta song is so catchy. I just couldn't help but go and actually purchase that single, as it kind of gives a new direction for the band. They went slightly more just like a hard rock route with their last album, but I think they're taking that even further in that direction, opposed from their early days where they were very metalcore. Really catchy songwriting, which I like. And then that second clip is from a newer band not many of you have probably heard of. They're called Tetelestai. And they actually dropped a new EP in January called Anxiety, and that was the title track, Anxiety. And yeah, that album it's a little bit of a hit and miss for me. I don't want to really do a review, but definitely check it out. It starts off super heavy with that song, and then it's a little bit of a mixed bag. You get some lighter tracks. They don't really seem to mesh too well altogether. I was kind of I need to listen to that album again probably. Definitely go check out them. So that was Anxiety by Tetelestai. Also the new single Like Poison by Righteous Vendetta. So next up, we got a couple more clips here. A couple more artists that you guys probably haven't heard of. One being Tax Collector. And we'll listen to one of two new songs called Set Fire. And all of their stuff is available on Bandcamp. Actually, I believe it's a solo project. And all his stuff is like available for free. Also, a new full-length album by a band called Redemption of the King. We're going to listen to the song Retaliation off of their album. All right, let's take a listen.
That's what these people were doing, refusing to recognize the glory of God that was right there, thinking somehow that they could then hide. I pray that you say in me what I say through him. Holy Spirit, set us on fire. That's why I be the lamp, the light of our Christ. Holy Spirit, set us on fire. For retaliation.
So yeah, if you liked either of those two clips, the first one was the band Tax Collector, and the second one was Redemption of the King. I believe all their stuff is available on Spotify and Google Play and all the streaming sites. But Redemption of the King, they have a full length out. It's really good, except the mix on the album is pretty rough. As you could hear from that, it was a little muddy, but definitely go check out their stuff anyways. It's still worth a listen. There's some good music in there. All right, we got two more quick clips here from January's releases, and these two are probably the bigger ones. So first up, we have a German power metal, like progressive melodic power metal band that's female led, and they got a really cool sound, and they've actually been around, as I'm seeing here on their Facebook. They started in 1996, so they've been around for quite a while, but I think this is definitely their biggest album to date, and it sounds great. So we're gonna take a listen to their track Holy Blood off of the album Testimony. And then right after that, we're going to be... I've kind of teased these guys on the podcast before, but their album finally came out in January. Wait for the Day's debut album, The Sun Will Drown, came out. This is by far my favorite release of 2019 so far, and I predict... I know we just did top 10 of 2018, but I'm predicting that this album is going to be very high up on my top 10 of 2019. So jump on these guys early. They don't like go around proclaiming that they're a Christian band. And I wouldn't probably label them as such, but as I talked about before, I definitely want to give some credit to Christian artists doing some cool stuff out there. And the two vocalists lead worship at their churches. The guitarist and backup vocalist is actually paid as a worship leader. Yeah, no, what these guys are doing is cool, and they're definitely venturing into some dark territory with their lyrics, and just providing hope for people struggling with anxiety, depression, addiction. They're not shy about dealing with those topics, but they do want to provide hope for those people. So definitely check out these guys' music. It's so great. So we're going to be listening to the first single off of that record, and it's Nothing Will Feel the Same by Wait for the Day. All right, here we go.
If you preach from stage, it's galvanizing. Like it really can divide a room. And I come from a scene where if you preach too much, someone is going to jump on the stage and knock you out. A dude was fronting a popular band. After we got done playing, he said, "We are not a preachcore band." I just remember thinking like, all right, man, we are a preachcore band. I'm about it. So as we're coming to the end of our journey, I feel like I've got one last record to throw grenades into the next generation of kids coming up. I wanted kids coming up to know that there is a genre called hardcore, and then there's this weird fringe folk culture movement of Christian kids that are utilizing that vehicle, and we're a part of that history. And I would never dare to take anybody else's, but this is mine. And so if you want to be about Jesus, like, I wanted to encourage kids coming up that preachcore lives. And where we're at right now is like we're in the wave where people stop talking so that they can let their music speak, because sometimes people just start talking and they're not saying anything, and it just cheapens everything. And so we were in a weird wave where we were sharing sincerely and it brought people in, then it became big business and it pushes people out, and now real kids are trying to figure out, how do we do this well? I want the kids right now that are gonna listen to it, or kids that are gonna hear our record in 2 years, to go, I want to talk about Jesus. I don't care what anybody says about it. And that song is for those kids. Don't ever be intimidated. Don't ever be afraid to talk about Jesus. Don't let anyone ever make you feel stupid because you want to represent something you want to represent. Like, who cares what anybody says? Because he's a lifesaver. Like, he'll save someone's life, and it matters to them, even if it doesn't matter to the cool kids on the side. Preachcore Lives is sick because I feel like it's like my little screw you to like dudes that want to use Jesus and be in a band and hopefully get marketed like they care, but really they don't. And so that's like my little like chip on my shoulder. But then the message to the kids coming up is like, you have a right to believe, and you have a right to be about it, and you have a right to share that message. So Preachcore Lives is for the next generation, future generations of really sincere, like, hardcore kids.
So that was an excerpt from the new Farewell documentary that was just released via Facedown Records on YouTube for the band Sleeping Giant. And that was the voice of Tommy Green, their lead vocalist, talking about the song Preachcore Lives off their final album, I Am. And I just wanted to talk about this clip because this kind of encompasses why I have been such a big fan of these guys. And they're not ashamed to talk about Jesus. And through this documentary and their final album, I know for me personally, hearing stuff like this is so inspirational to me. And he's talking about the next generation of like spirit-filled bands in the Christian metal and hardcore scene. And a lot of you who kind of keep up with the newer bands, I hear it a lot, and you'll probably agree that there's been quite a huge decline since 2010, 2011. It's just kind of gone downhill. There's fewer bands out there, or at least fewer bands being recognized. And I think also with how much North American culture has shifted in all those years, in this last decade, everything's a little bit more hush-hush, and everybody seems to be a little bit more scared to talk about Jesus. And I know I've kind of always struggled with that a little bit, but with some recent experiences in the past year or so, it's still sometimes kind of hard to put into words, but at the same time, I know with definitely these guys being a huge inspiration on that, is that I don't want to be silent about it when the opportunity arises, and stuff like on this podcast, I don't want to be scared to preach the name of Jesus. And the stuff that he's done in my life, the evidence I've seen through the ministry of Sleeping Giant, it's so incredible to see the change in people's lives after experiencing these guys' music, and just some great moments in this documentary that kind of show that. But yeah, sorry, back to the reason why I wanted to talk about this clip is that it inspires me when I've been working on some music very, very, very slowly since releasing my full-length album nearly 4 years ago. I haven't talked about my music yet. If you are interested, it's the solo project. I go by Beyond Vision. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, every place. I haven't really been releasing too much music recently, except for one single I put out last year.
Why I wanted to bring that up is that in the process of making this new music, I feel like I maybe have taken a step back from artistically wanting to say Jesus' name in my music. If that's a intentional choice, like if I want to make music that's like less preachy in a way, I think that could be wrong, because I feel like that was when this project started, that's what I was called to do. And I think like going back on that direction, just maybe for me in this particular project, is me kind of just being unfaithful with it. After hearing this documentary and just seeing what Sleeping Giant did and knowing how much they've been an inspiration to me over the years, I'm feeling inspired to get going on this new music and just really give everything to God and to say what he wants me to say in it. I believe that, actually using his name for this project is the right thing, and I don't believe that Jesus needs to hear his name in every single song for it to be Christian music, or to be glorifying to him and to be helpful to people. Every artist is called to something different and to share their own unique art. But I think something that God has laid on my heart over the years is to be making music, is to make it a ministry. I've always wanted to have a very similar band in the vein of like Sleeping Giant, like mixed with For Today. Very ministry based, very hopeful, just a way to show love to people around the world. All that to say is that I'm stoked to get working on some new music and to really show what I've got. But I don't want to be ashamed to preach Jesus' name in my music. And here's another clip from that documentary, and yeah, I think it just kind of demonstrates why we should say his name.
You never, ever need to change or water down the name of Jesus. That's what it's meant to me. I discovered that by watching Tommy Green show up every night and talk about Jesus in openness and in honesty, and watching a crowd respond unlike anything I've ever seen. Because what I thought before that, what Christian hardcore told me, was that people aren't actually going to accept Jesus, and so let's cover him up or do something. Let's try to make him attractive inside of our culture, and he never was. And so seeing someone actually just present him or represent him in transparency and in honesty, not try to make him cool, not try to make him a a scene presentable version of Jesus, but to actually just present Jesus as he was. It was one of the most profound things I've ever seen, and I realized that he truly is the treasure of the world. You don't have to change his name. It changed what I believe is possible and how I can show up in life and how I can show up in any industry, that Jesus can show up in any room. I never, ever, ever have to discard him or change his name to make him more attractive. He's beautiful the way he is.
And when I start to think, that's when I start to scream. Give me a sign, I need something to knock you off the fight. 'Cause I'm lost, down to nothing, trying to survive. A fence I can stack, going nowhere fast. My life is on the line, I'm running out of time. Just give me some.
These are the ways of forgiveness. This is the way that it starts. There is no time left for fighting. Let the surge take you out of the dark. Wake up! The beach is calling us to wake up. Victory! You're by your side and you're never letting go. Our victory.
So that first song is a song called Ashes of Dreams from a band called Thorny Way, and they're from Belarus. So actually most of their music, if not all, is actually not in English. And yeah, so like you can purchase their album on their Bandcamp, and they have all the lyrics posted in their native language. Looks like a Russian or some similar vein. Sorry, I'm not too up onto what their language is called there. But yeah, these guys are awesome. They released a sick album. They have some amazing artwork. And yeah, definitely go check out those guys. They're called Thorny Way. And then next up, the brand new single from GFM, or Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh. It's called Give Me a Sign. And these girls are insane, and they have been climbing up in popularity the last couple of years on Christian radio, and just actually making some noise in the metal community. And they have some great songs, and they have a EP coming out soon. They already have 2 singles out from that. And yeah, I just really wanted to show you guys them. They've went slightly more just like a solid straight up rock sound over their first album. Kind of like the direction Memphis Mayfire took, if you've kind of kept up with them. But yeah, solid music, and really excited to hear more from them. And then the second track there was a song called Victory by a new band called Day's Eye. Yeah, they have a new EP out, and I just took a listen to it recently, and it was very good. And if you like Nine Lashes, I know we're kind of venturing more into rock territory here, but if you guys like Nine Lashes and you're kind of yearning for that harder sound that they used to have, Day's Eye might fulfill that void for you, because the vocalist actually sounds very similar, but they actually go screaming at points, and they carry a heavy sound. So yeah, go check out Day's Eye and Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh for some awesome music. And now next up is a couple more February releases. The Voice of Blood from a band called Holy Blood, and this is more of some extreme and black metal kind of realm. So those fans that you guys have been craving for something heavy, get ready for these guys. And then also after that is, right after that is a new song called Virtual Reality from an artist called Brandon Birch. He just released a
instrumental progressive metal album on Bandcamp, and I believe it's available for streaming. I still haven't listened to it yet, but I've been super stoked to check it out. He's actually like a kind of musician YouTuber. So yeah, Brandon Birch and his new song Virtual Reality after Holy Blood. Guys, I hope you like those tracks. That last one is the final new release song that we're going to cover today. We'll save March for the next podcast, and that was Strong and Brave from Adelaide, and they actually just released their new full-length album, also called Strong and Brave, and it's just solid, good hard rock. If you like Fireflight, you'll probably love Adelaide, so check them out. And now I realize this podcast is already getting quite long. It's really hard to keep these things short. With that, we are going to go to my segment that I introduced in the preview episode called A Decade Ago, where we're going to take a quick look at a few different artists and their music that was released a decade ago. So in this case, we are now in 2019, so we're going to look at some music released in 2009 throughout this entire year. When we get a chance to do this segment. So I'm going to kick it off with a post-hardcore band. I'm not sure. I think they were on Come and Live possibly back in the day. I just remember getting this album for free through that, if my recollection serves me right. They're called Holding On to Hope, and they had an album called Of the Sea. And I need to definitely go back and check out this entire album, but this one song, I kept coming back to it, even though I didn't like the band all that much back in the day. But their song "We Are the Beacons" was, I don't know, it was something special, it was something different. Here's a clip of "We Are the Beacons" by Holding On to Hope.
This is a warning. Will I see you waking up? And this is the warning. Prepare yourself. All these walls are shaken.
right, so this track is called Teach by a band called The Chariot. And this was from their 2009 release, Wars and Rumors of Wars. And it was only this last year that I really came to appreciate The Chariot. And just listening to all of their releases, it's so insane. I wish I didn't really miss out on them when they were around. I kind of knew of them, but I couldn't really take this style of music at the time. It's very chaotic, hardcore. But after seeing Josh Scogan play with his new band 68, just him and a drummer, they opened for The Devil Wears Prada and Fit for a King in Vancouver. And man, it was insane seeing what he was capable of doing live, and just the two of them. That was an insane show. So it really got me into going back and checking out The Chariot. And yeah, this is just an awesome album. It's so crazy, and just watching live videos of them, it's nuts, man. But this was one of my favorite tracks from this album. It's the intro track, and as you can tell, it just kicks off so insane. All right. Well, it is almost time to end this podcast, but we got one more track to listen to, and we're going to close off with this one. And it's I think, a fitting end to this episode. 2009, the sophomore record from Sleeping Giant released, and it was called Sons of Thunder. Yeah, there was a song called The Army of the Chosen One, and this was the song that got me into them. And it also features Demon Hunter vocalist Ryan Clark. And we'll hear more about Demon Hunter in the next episode. But yeah, this was such an insane album. I actually just listened to all the Sleeping Giant albums as a marathon, and man, I love them so much. But yeah, this album was the one that got me into them. Yeah, we're gonna listen to The Army of the Chosen One.
An army composed of walking dead, of willing hearts in this day of struggle. We speak with fire, we break all chains. The foolish bonds of carnal mind from beneath us. We see the leader transfigurate. He calls us forward, in that moment receive. Gives us a new name, a stones of light. And then we stand commission, searching for the valiant ones who go. Chosen ones, we're rising, calling out your name. Chosen ones, when you will hear our anthem. Chosen ones, so answer us in strong.
All right, guys, this is where we have to end the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for the support that you guys have shown this project. And I just hope that I can keep providing a quality podcast for you guys moving forward. So with that, make sure you guys are following our Facebook page. Follow the Bandcamp page, where we'll be releasing a bunch of new awesome stuff this year, as well as our YouTube and Instagram. We got different stuff on every single one of those platforms. Friday, March 15th, we are releasing the second Christian Metal Source compilation album, and it's called This Is Our Worship Volume 2. It's got 16 awesome heavy songs, and this was released back in 2010, 2011, and we just wanted to remaster and re-release it for you, so it's updated quality, new artwork, and it gives a little bit of a teaser of what's to come later in 2019 with our new compilation album. So we are taking submissions from bands. Email christianmetalsource@gmail.com. If you are in a band or know people in a band that you think would suit this project, we're doing an album on spiritual warfare as our overall theme. Not every single song has to be themed around that, but if you guys have your full uncompressed WAV files, you can submit them to christianmetalsource@gmail.com, and we are going to be discussing it, and we'll kind of pick and choose what we want to be on this project, but definitely submit a track or two, and just let us know some more about your band. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you soon.